I hope you are all doing well. Okay, today we are going to learn a very interesting topic, which is how computer represents data. So we use computer every day to work with different types of information, such as a text, numbers, pictures, music, and videos. But have you ever wondered how a computer understands all this information? No. Okay, but today we are going to know a computer does not understand information in exactly the same way that humans do. Instead, computer converts information into a form that can be stored, processed, and communicated. In this lesson, we will learn how computer represent different types of data using digital information. Let me ask, what is data? Before we look at how computer represents data, let's first understand what data means. Okay, data refers to fast information or values that can be collected, stored, processed, and used by a computer. Examples of data include names, numbers, letters, pictures, audio, videos, and documents. For example, the name Janet is data. The number 25 is also data. A photograph taken with a mobile phone is data. And a recorder voice message is also a data. So data can exist in many different forms. Data representation. Now let's look at the meaning of data representation. Data representation refers to the way information is converted into a form that a computer can understand, store, and process. Human can easily understand letters, words, pictures, and sound. However, computer needs these forms of information to be converted into digital form. The basic form used by computers in binary, which consists of zeros and ones. Therefore, data representation it's simply the method used to represent information inside a computer. Why computers use binary? Computers use the binary system because computers are electronic devices that work with electrical signals. We can simplify the operations of these electronic circuits into two states, on and off. The on state can be represented by the number 1, whilst the off state can be represented by 0. Therefore, computer use two digits, zeros, 0 and 1, to represent and process information. This is why we say that computer use binary numbers. This is why we say computer use binary number system. Binary number system. A binary number system is a number system that use only two digits, zeros and ones, unlike the decimal number system that we normally use, which has 10 digits from 0 to 9. Binary has only two digits. These two digits are zeros and ones. For example, the decimal number 2 is represented in binary as 10. The decimal number 3 is represented as 1, and the decimal number 4 is represented as 100. So even though we normally use the decimal numbers, computer represent numbers using binary. One important character coding system is the AXII. The AXII stands for American Standard Code for Information Interchange. So the AXII assigns numerical values to characters such as letters, numbers, and symbols. For example, the capital letter A is represented by the number 65, whilst B is represented by 66. These numerical values can then be converted into binary. Therefore, when the two type text into a computer, the characters are encoded into numerical and binary presentation that the computer can process. Computers can also represent image used digitally. A digital image is not made up of many tiny dots called pixels. Each pixel contains information about its color and other properties. The computer represents this information using numerical values, which are ultimately stored as binary data. Therefore, when we take a photograph with a phone or save an image on a computer. The image is converted into digital information. The number of pixels and the amount of information stored for each pixel can be affect the quality and size of image. So pixels is the smallest individual elements of a digital image. If you look very closely at a digital picture, you can think of it as a being made up of many tiny colored squares. Each of these squares is a pixel. When many pixels are arranged together, they form the complete image that we see on the screen. Higher resolution image generally contains more pixels and can therefore require more storage. Now let's consider audio. So sound is naturally an analogic signal but captures, stores, and processes it digitally. To convert sound into digital information, the computer takes measures of the sound wave at regular intervals. These measures are called samples. The samples are converted into numerical values and then represented digitally. This allows the computer and mobile phones to store videos, to store voice recording, music, and other sounds as digital data. Representing video. Video is another type of data that computer represents digitally. A video consists of a sequence of skills image called frames, usually combined with sound. Each frame contains image information, whilst the audio contains sound information. Both the image and the sound or audio are converted into digital data and stored using bits. Therefore, when we watch a video on a computer or phone, the device is processing large amounts of binary data very quickly. Combining all data types, let's bring everything together. Computer can work with many different types of information. They can process numbers, text, image, sounds, and video. Although these types of information are different to us, computer represent them digitally. Numbers are represented using binary values. Text is represented using character encoding systems such as ASCII and unique code. Images are represented using pixels and numerical color information. Sound is represented using digital samples. Video combines image frames and sound. Ultimately, all of these forms of information are stored and processed as digital data using patterns of bits. Why data is important? Data representation is important because computer need information to be in a form that their electronic system can process. Without a suitable method of representation, computer will not be able to store, process, or communicate information effectively. Data representation also allows different types of information to be stored together. For example, a single smartphone can store text, image, photographs, music, videos, application, and documents. All of these different types of information are converted into digital representation that the device can process. Let me summarize everything. What we have learned in this lesson. First, data refers to information that can be stored and processed by a computer. Data representation refers to the way this information is converted into a form that a computer can handle. Computer use the binary number system, which consists of zeros and ones. A single zero or one is called a bit. A single zeros or one is called a bit. 8 bytes makes 1 byte. 8 bits makes 1 byte. Computer represent numbers using binary. They represent text using character encoding systems such as ASCII and unique code. Image are represented using pixels and numerical color information. Sound is converted into digital samples. Video consists of digital image and sound. The most important thing to remember is that computer ultimately represent digital information on using patterns of bit this lesson. The most important idea is that everything in computing is represented using ones and zeros. So numbers are represented using powers of two in binary notation. Text is represented using ASCII code that are converted into binary. Images are represented using puzzle, color values in binary. Audios and videos are represented using samples and frames in binary. So although we interact with computers using numbers, whereas pictures, sounds, and videos, underneath all of these is the same basic idea binary. Binary is universal language of computing. It is a simple idea involving just zeros and ones, but it is foundation that allow computers to store and process all different types of information. Thank you for watching this lesson. We shall meet next.